So the first thing I got to do is I'm flipping the breaker back on. I've got the breaker back on. Now the remote control, let's see if it works. I don't know if it's going to work just yet until I pull one of those pull chains. We're going to try the light first. Look at that. I've got it on the remote control. Hey, come on. There it goes. And now let's see if the fan works. Let's just go on medium. Now nothing's working because I think it's because the chain, you remember the chain was pulled to the off position. So now I've got to pull the chain. If I pull the chain once, that should make it go on to the fast position. We're going to see what happens here. I've got the remote here now, and I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to see if it goes off. It should go off here in a second. We got the light is working. See there? And now I'm going to turn it on to high. And the housing's still off up there, but we're just double checking this, right? Okay, I just pressed on the high button, and there it's going. Look at that. This remote control is now working this ceiling fan because I was able to transfer that module up there because we were throwing away the other old ceiling fan, and the new ceiling fan that I'm going to install over there has its own remote control. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so now what I want to do, I went ahead and turned it off, and now because those chains are there, you've got a decision to make. Do you leave those chains there? What I would do is recommend do not leave those chains there, because if anybody pulls it, now the remote control is not going to work properly. Okay, so you can take some wire cutters and you can cut this right there, and on this one here, when this stops, you can reach up in there and cut the chain off in there. And we're going to do away with this one. Now that we know, see, you got to leave this one in high position, then you can control it with your remote control. Okay, so I'm going to do that next and get rid of these chains. Now here's something else you could do. You could leave the chain for the light, because the light one is, the chain is going straight up and down. So, you know what? Maybe you can't when you have the remote control. Let's just see. Okay, that's on. Yeah, see? I mean, you could turn that on and off. Then you've got to go back to the remote control, and then see the remote control is not going to work unless you have that off. And now you can control the remote control because the module up at the top. So see, once you decide to have the remote control, you got to get rid of those chains, but make sure that you have the chains adjusted in the on, off, medium, high, low speed first before doing anything else, and double check and make sure you go through all the speeds, because you don't want to have the chain, the pull chain on medium, and then cut the chain off, let's say, and then think that you're going to control it to high, because you're probably not going to be able to do that because you already have programmed the ceiling fan to only go to the medium, low, and off speed because you don't have that chain pulled into the high speed. Hopefully I'm not getting too technical with you. Okay. There you go. One remote control ready to rock and roll. Now I just went ahead and turned that ceiling fan off. I got to get back up there. But before I do that, I turn the breaker back off. If you've got a wall switch that controls your your light, make sure you've got it turned off. I'm going to get back up there, and I don't want any of those wires hot as I'm messing around with them. Even though I have the wire nuts on them and everything, it's best to make sure that there's no power up there before you reattach your housing and get your trim back up in there. So I'm going to install that trim and housing exactly how I took it off, rerouting my wires, pushing my wires up there carefully, making sure it all fits nice and pretty. Well, I got that housing back up in there, and just do a good job when you're up there. I got a crummy paintbrush, and I can brush this off and make sure I don't have any little sheetrock dust marks on here or whatever. I can wipe off the top of this. And this fan's been up here for a while now, and a good way to clean these blades is just with a crummy paintbrush. You should do this periodically with your ceiling fans. Keep them nice and clean. You know, it's amazing how much dust gets on them. That's just part of maintenance on it. These are metal or heavy plastic blades. They almost feel like metal. And you could get up here after you do this with a damp cloth. I wouldn't suggest doing a damp cloth first, because then you're just going to smush it all over the place. Get as much dust off them as you can first. Then go back with the damp cloth. If these are wood, you could do that too. Or you know, if they're bamboo type blades, maybe you don't want to get them wet. Whatever. But do it with the crummy paintbrush. I used to use this for painting a long time ago. It was just a cheap one, but the end's real fat, you know. It's real fat like that, and I thought, hey, I'll just use that as a little broom from now on. Okay? So do a good job. I always like to leave things a lot better than how I found them. Maybe I'll tell the person, hey, I went ahead and cleaned your fan too. They might appreciate that. They might say, oh, by the way, I've got something else I want you to do. You know, if you're a handyman person or somebody who's charging someone for this, and you might get some extra work from them just because you went ahead and did something extra for them, and you tell them, oh, I'm going to go ahead and clean your ceiling fan. I went ahead and cleaned your ceiling fan, but don't worry, I'm not going to charge you for it. Took me a while to do it. They were really dusty and everything, but you know, I wanted it to look nice when I got done. People appreciate you going the extra mile, even if it's for your spouse or a friend or whatever. You know, do a good job. Just a quick follow-up on these chains. If you like the look of the chains, you can leave them there. You don't have to take them down. Just make sure you remember to not pull these and tell everybody, hey, don't pull these anymore. Because if you pull this out, there's going to be a hole that when you look up there, there's a hole. And then where this chain is, there's another hole on the side. And if that hole on the side was over here, let's say, and then you look up at the ceiling fan and you don't see anything coming through there, you might think, oh, what's that for? So if you want to leave these chains fine, if you think this chain is too long, you want it up shorter, you can, sometimes if you see a little chain release right here, you can release that, cut this back up higher, move these chains up higher so it doesn't hit anybody. Their head, if it's too small, or their arms or whatever, or you don't want your kids to reach them, you can just raise these up a little bit. You know what I mean? So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and leave these and find out what the owner wants me to do with them. Got the power back on, and this ceiling fan is ready to rock and roll. Oh yeah! You did it! Well, I gotta go for now. That's all I've got. But I'll be back with more videos.